Hello everyone and welcome to A Slice of My Life. This video is all about the Lucky Clover spinner by KAP Kinetics Asia Pacific EDC, and I would like to give KAP, also of course to Haisia, a huge shout out for sending this my way and putting this in my hands. What you guys are looking at here is the Lucky Clover spinner in stainless steel. Guys, this is a prototype version, but I would like to say that while this is a prototype, it is not too much different from the final retail piece. I believe that the only real difference is the fact that the machining lines here are a little bit more muted versus the final version, and that honestly is a plus point in my opinion, but we will get to that in a short while. Right now my left hand feels a little bit naked, so let me just put this on. Yes guys, I've got a new Zirc ring given to me by none other than CK. Thank you bro for this one. And by the way, I might as well share it here. CK was my secret Santa. I already knew, but not really, so yes, thank you CK always for the awesome gifts, and now I have a cool pinky ring. This actually looks pretty darn cool. Zirconium guys, is my first Zirconium ring. Anyway, back on topic, the main star of the show today is the KAP Lucky Clover spinner, and like I mentioned, Haisia of KAP sent this over to me, and I have been using this. I have been experiencing this for the past 3 weeks, almost a month actually, and I must apologize because honestly this video is pretty long overdue. This was actually sent to me the same time as the Eclipse clicker. If you guys haven't checked out my review on the Eclipse clicker, check the description box down below because I'll be putting links to my video review on the Eclipse clicker. Back to the Lucky Clover spinner. The one I have here, like I mentioned, is in stainless steel, and I would like to start this off by sharing with you guys what this came with. To be more precise, what this came in, and that is pretty awesome KAP box. And inside you'll find a few things. First of all is a cool leather pouch. This is a custom leather pouch with the KAP logo debossed on the back. Then we've got a felt carrying pouch, or maybe this is I don't know, suede, velvet, felt, I don't know, but yes, I'll just leave it there. And we have a small little packet here, and this packet contains a spare bearing, a cleaning cloth, some stickers, as well as the COA. Let me just take this out so I can show you guys. COA right here, Lucky Clover, serial number 6, stainless steel, R188 bearing. It actually came packed like that in this pouch inside this leather pouch. I don't know which one you should be considering, a case or a pouch, but yeah, they're both cases or pouches, and this thing is just so premium guys. This is super awesome. I really love the packaging. I was just so blown away at the kind of accessories that this came included with. So shout outs to KAP, job well done on that. So my experience with the Lucky Clover is a unique one. Now I'm not going to say that this is the best spinner in the world, but I must say that this features some of the best machining I've ever seen so far. So you know, not going too far away from the machining quality displayed on the Eclipse clicker, this one has some really impeccable machining. Now if it is not obvious already, this is a quad style spinner, but because of the way it is made, it feels like a cog style or a disc style spinner when you spin it, and I attribute that to the overall shape of the spinner. It doesn't have those really deep hips, it doesn't have very obvious arms, it just has some nice curves going in like that at each side. So in my opinion, it still technically classifies as a quad spinner. If you take a look at it all around, it is just so smooth. This whole thing here is just like one flowing piece. I don't know how best to describe it, but this is just rounded all over, everywhere. Every single edge, every single surface, contour, yeah, it's just really nicely rounded. And all around you have what seems to be a concentric pattern. I wanted to say a circle, but it really isn't, because this pattern here, this concentric line, follows the overall shape of the spinner itself. And I'm going to try and bring this closer a little bit to the lens so that I could hopefully show you guys how much detail there is inside these lines. Yeah guys, it's kind of hard to get on camera, but if I'm not able to properly display it, then I will probably just show you guys a picture taken to the best of my ability to kind of illustrate to you guys what exactly are these concentric lines. Now if you take a closer look, they aren't truly just lines. You could actually see the machining mark in between every single groove, and that is really awesome. It's like top-notch machining quality, and to the touch it just feels smooth. That's it. You could lightly feel these grooves, and this one honestly is a little bit shallow, which is why I made the comment at the start of the video that I feel that the final version of this product is better than the prototype, because those lines are a lot more pronounced. Now if you've actually seen pictures of what KAP have been showing off of the Lucky Clover, you would clearly see those lines are really obvious, and they actually look like lines, but if you really look closely at it, it's just super intricate machining all the way, and that just blows my mind. The same sort of treatment goes all the way onto the buttons as well. On this particular prototype of the Lucky Clover, it seems that the machining lines or the grooves on the buttons are a little bit more pronounced than what is on the spinner body itself. How should I say this? The entire thing, the slope up to the buttons with that divot in the middle, everything is just so deliberate that it just makes the whole thing flow so nicely. And speaking of the buttons, let's pop them off and check out what's under the hood. There we go, this is what's under the hood. We'll get to the buttons in a short while. So you could see the R188 bearing sitting in that slot over there. This is a press fit or a glue fit. I believe it is a press fit as listed on the KAP website, but I'm not going to try to verify that now. And you could also see all the lightning slots milled out around the core of the spinner itself. Now, one thing to point out is that these lightning slots are also finished super well. Each one is chamfered very nicely on both sides. There's no sharp edges at all whatsoever. Even the top lip here is very nicely finished. This is just some top-notch machining quality, and I cannot deny how well this is done. Next is the buttons. So the buttons look like this. This is the main button profile. On the side, it is a little bit thick, but here you could see that it is two same halves that are held together with a grub screw. Now, I'm a little bit partial here. I personally like dedicated male and female halves, but you know, can't complain when you're talking about machining quality like this. I don't know if the final retail version is going to feature dedicated male or female halves, but you know, in this particular application, this works completely fine. Now let's pop the buttons back on, and then I will give it a spin to let you guys see what it looks like when it is spinning. I mean, I kind of already fidgeted with it a little bit earlier, but you get what I mean, right? So here we go. Now before I carry on, I want to say that these buttons favor more of a pinch grip rather than a flat grip, and I actually prefer flat grip. So in this way, it is actually quite okay, but if you grip it too hard, then sometimes the meat from your fingers might roll over the button and it might interfere with the body of the spinner. See, it might rub right there like that. So that really depends on the way you hold it. You can hold it slightly lighter without applying too much pressure, or you could kind of give it a flat grip closer towards the tip of your fingers, and this will be a bit more comfortable. So I've kind of gotten used to holding the spinner this way using the original Lucky Clover buttons, and in this particular way of holding the spinner with the index finger and thumb grip, pulling back with your middle finger is not a problem. It is actually very comfortable, especially when you manage to land your finger on the edge of one of the arms. Now, that's not to say that you can't make a good pull from the middle here. It's just, in my opinion, not as satisfying. I generally find myself pushing forward with my fourth finger so that I could feel for that edge there on the arm and then pull back with my middle finger. So I generally fidget this way with the spinner, and if I miss it, then I will just push forward a little bit with my fourth finger and give it a good strong pull. Pushing forwards is quite okay, not so satisfying, simply because, in my opinion, these hips here are really shallow. They are very comfortable, but they don't provide much of a grip or a surface for your middle finger to land on when you're pushing forward. Pulling back is totally different though, because you kind of land your finger on the side like that of the arm, right? If I change it up to a middle finger and thumb grip, doing jib jabs is fine, but it's not I guess the word is intuitive. It's not as intuitive because the arms aren't very pronounced. You know what I mean? Like if you had longer arms, or I guess deeper hips, then it'd be a lot more intuitive and satisfying if this was a little bit more pronounced. But I mean, hey, this is a spinner shape, right? This is exactly what makes it so unique in the first place. But yeah, so that's what I feel when it comes to jib jabs on this. If you fidget purely with your index finger, pulling back is not a problem. Whether it is going to be on this dip here like that or on the tip of an arm, that's going to be completely fine. Pushing forwards is also very, very comfortable, and I actually find myself pushing forward more with this area of my index finger than the usual fingernail area, which is really, really interesting because I find myself doing this exactly like that, pushing forward this way. This actually feels very comfortable, by the way. So yeah, just back and forth, or just forwards all the way, pullbacks all the way, and that in a nutshell is what it is like for me fidgeting with the Lucky Clover spinner. Now, truth be told, in stock form, in the fully stock form, this isn't the most satisfying spinner to fidget with. This actually feels quite solid. It's not too heavy and it's not too light. This weighs in, or at least the stainless steel version weighs in at 66.5 grams, which is right smack at the acceptable weight that I like stainless steel spinners to be. I generally like spinners around the 60 to 120 gram range. So 66.5 is just right at the okay mark. So this isn't too heavy, but yet it's not too light. You know what I mean? So it's quite okay. It feels quite okay in hand, but because of the way it is made, because of its shape and the overall smoothness of the whole thing, it is not the most satisfying spinner to fidget with. I'll be honest with you guys. Now, if your fingers were a little bit damp, or if you have a little bit more oils on the fingertips, it would probably create a little bit more grip on the buttons itself. I mean, okay, so this, like I said, it's from the perspective of a flat grip, then that will be a bit more comfortable. Because of the way it's designed, how far away these hips are from the button itself or the core itself of the spinner, it may be a little bit further away from your finger, I guess, than, say, for example, other spinners that you might be used to. At this point, let me just quickly bring in the stubby, for example. Now, if you look at the stubby, right, the hips go all the way till almost the button. Even if you use the original stock buttons of the stubby, it is still quite a close distance between your middle finger and the core of the spinner, if you get what I mean. So for this, there is an extended distance here that makes you stretch out your finger a little bit further. And to some people, it might be uncomfortable, but to many, I'm sure it is something that you'll just get used to while you experience the spinner. I did try this spinner out with other button combinations, and I have to say that it really elevated my experience with it. Now, granted, these buttons have wonderful machining. These buttons aren't for me. It might be for you, it is just not for me because of the way I hold my spinners. I'm not used to the pinch grip, you see. So in the pinch grip, I feel like I'm just applying so much more pressure with my index finger and my thumb that I'm not really enjoying this fidgeting experience with my other finger. Like, I'm just focused on making sure the spinner doesn't slip out. But if you hold your spinner with a pinch grip, I'm pretty darn sure this is going to be super comfortable because of that divot there. It is perfect. It is just perfect for your fingers, just like that. So let me quickly swap out these buttons with another pair of buttons. In fact, I've got 3 other pairs of buttons that I've tried it with, and I wanted to show you guys what it looks like with these button combinations. I think that you guys are actually familiar with these sort of buttons, but here we go anyway. I've got this button. I can't remember where I got this from. This is the honeycomb style button. It is quite flat, right, in terms of the top profile as compared to what is here on the Lucky Clover buttons. The next one is, I believe these are Damn Designs buttons. I may be completely wrong, but it's the one with the spiral design, and it's almost the complete opposite from the stock Lucky Clover spinner buttons because these kind of have a dish going inwards, right? It's concaved. And last but not least, I believe these are the collider buttons by Unquiet Hands. I forgot if these are the Echo or the collider buttons. Sorry, Tom, please forgive me. Yeah, but these are some of the best buttons out there in the market. These ones here are actually quite thick compared to what's on the Lucky Clover buttons. So the one thing to highlight to you guys is that all these buttons have roughly the same diameter as even the Lucky Clover buttons here. And these are 22 millimeters. Let me just first of all show you guys with the thinnest buttons here on the table. As you guys can see, it is the thinnest by far. Some of you may actually enjoy the look or the final result of these sort of buttons where the buttons sit completely recessed from the spinner body altogether. So you won't be able to see much of the buttons from this view, but here you could hold the buttons in a flat grip because these buttons are wide enough and they don't have this outer area kind of sloping down along the body. So this is still okay for a flat grip, see? Still okay. And for me, I feel a bit more comfortable with these buttons. These actually improved the experience for me and it made me appreciate the Lucky Clover spinner a lot more. Alright, with that said, let's switch over to the next pair of buttons. So I guess, guys, this is button showcase time, eh? I remember I was nicknamed Button Ben by Joshua Young of Kinetics Spinners. So yes, with these buttons installed, they protrude slightly outside or above of the spinner frame. So of course that means that with these buttons you could table spin it. I mean, you could also table spin with the stock Lucky Clover buttons, but with this one it gives you a little bit more height, and because this is all concaving downwards, it's a lot more comfortable to hold and to fidget with, and I feel a lot more natural with this because of the way I'm so used to fidgeting with my other spinners. This one also allows me to balance it a lot better because of that surface area and the concave design. And on top of that, the spiral design here is kind of going in theme with the Lucky Clover spinner body. Now let's move on to the final set of buttons, and by far these are my favorite buttons on the Lucky Clover. And of course these are the collider, or the, was it the collider? Collision? Sorry Tom, please forgive me, but these buttons are from Unquiet Hands, right? Then here we go. Put them on. You could see that they are raised a lot more than every other button so far, raised even higher than the original Lucky Clover buttons, and they sit like that. So these repeating circles here, they also go in line with that theme of the concentric circles on the Lucky Clover spinner, and these just feel so damn good in my opinion. The buttons, unfortunately, the buttons are not KAP buttons. They are Unquiet Hands buttons, but shoutouts to Unquiet Hands anyway. And of course, by extension, shoutouts to Anna of Unquiet Hands for introducing Haisia over to me and then allowing this whole relationship between myself and KAP to happen in the first place. But yes, let's get back to business here. These buttons just elevate the entire experience of the Lucky Clover for me. With these buttons, I actually feel a lot more comfortable. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the height of the buttons or because of the comfort that I'm able to kind of just grab the buttons or grip the buttons in any position. I don't even have to think twice about it. That it just makes the pulling experience a lot more comfortable. And with these buttons here, jib-jabbing also feels a lot more at home. Maybe it's because I'm not too focused on making sure I hold the spinner properly. I'm not so worried about the spinner slipping out of my hands. I don't know, it could be just the way I feel when I hold these buttons here. Now, don't get me wrong, like I said, these buttons are beautiful. Those machining marks and concentric circles, these are great. And just bringing back about what I said about the spinner body itself, if you look really closely at the buttons or those lines at the buttons, you could actually see the machining marks in between those lines. But like in all honesty, these buttons just feel so good. I don't even have to worry about this spinner slipping out. I'm able to pull on the spinner with all the force I want and not even have a care in the world, right? And it's just great. It's just great. Now let's talk about the gyroscopic effect and how it feels when you actually have this spinner spinning. Now earlier I mentioned that this is what I would classify as a quad style spinner, but it feels a bit more towards a cork style or a disc style spinner. And that's because there isn't much of a difference or not much pronunciation of each arm, right? The hips here on the spinner are very gentle. So when you actually spin it, it feels very, very stable, like super stable, like as if you're spinning a cork style spinner. And when you torque it left and right, you don't get too much of that resistance. You don't get so much of that gyroscopic feeling, that feedback. It really, really feels very much like a disc style or a cork style spinner. That's the reason why I was kind of torn and I didn't know whether to kind of classify this as a quad spinner or a cork style spinner. On the flip side of the same coin, you could say that this is the best of both worlds. You get that stability of a cork style spinner, but then you get the aesthetics of a quad spinner, and I think that's a win-win situation for everyone, right, who's able to snag one of these. One more thing I have to say, and I believe this is one of the key selling points, at least that Kinetics Asia Pacific would like to mention about the Lucky Clover spinner, is that this is a WORRYSTONE style spinner. And I have to agree, guys, I have to wholeheartedly agree because of how it feels. You could actually feel the steps. It is all just very smooth, but you could still feel the steps all the way up to the buttons here, and it just feels really good all around. So this is a very, very interesting finish, very interesting sort of feedback, sort of a tactile feedback all across the spinner in terms of it being just a spinner or a WORRYSTONE. That is no lie by Kinetics Asia Pacific. I wouldn't say it, or at least I would honestly disagree if I didn't feel the same way, but this actually works. Let's move into a size comparison and let's compare this to the stubby. So if you look at it in this orientation, it is not as tall as a stubby, but in this orientation, it is very slightly taller than a stubby. Overall thickness, it is almost the same thickness as a stubby. Not too much of a difference here, but of course, most of the height is all focused in the middle of the spinner. Everything just goes upwards, or you should say everything kind of curves out, right? So it's a bit more narrow on the edges of every single arm. I'm going to bring in an average size lighter, a Victorinox Classic SD as well. Then we have my pen, and this is the Tyscribe Bolt V2 Mini. Just for fun, I have the Eclipse clicker here. So all in all, guys, basically this is super pocketable. It is not too large. It is not too heavy. It is very, very pocketable. A great spinner that you could easily carry in your pocket. Now for some final details, and that is the materials that the Lucky Clover is being offered in, as well as the price point. Now the Lucky Clover is actually offered in stainless steel, which is this one right here, and stainless steel is going for $100 US. It is also offered in titanium, going at $110, and in copper for $90 US. I also saw some pictures of the Lucky Clover being offered in zirconium. There was a polished black zirconium as well as a Zirc version that featured the oil slick sort of finish. So many options there, including exotic metals. So yeah guys, basically that is it. I've shared everything that I wanted to share about the Lucky Clover spinner. Like I said again, this is the stainless steel version and this is a prototype version. I believe that the final retail version is going to be even better than this, although I think that this is already super great. Beautiful machining marks. Thank you once again to KAP and to Haisiao. Thank you for supporting this channel and thank you for sending this so that I could share it with everyone who's watching the video. I think it's a pretty solid spinner. Might not be for everyone, but could be super awesome if you like the pinch grip, or if you swap it out with these buttons or something close to these buttons, it might change the way you experience the spinner. But all in all, if you are a sucker for great machining, look no further. This is really good. That's all I have to share, guys. Thank you so much for sticking all the way throughout and sharing in this slice of my life. I hope that you found this video informative. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, then please consider giving me a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, hello there, welcome. A sub would be nice, but if I did not earn your sub today, that's okay. I promise to continue working on the quality of my content, and hopefully one day I will earn that sub. Another great way to support the channel is over on Patreon. I'll put a link up here to that in case you want to check it out. We have Patreon exclusive content as well as Patreon exclusive giveaways from time to time. So if you do become a patron of mine, thank you so much in advance. It really means a lot to me. Once again, everyone, this is the Lucky Clover spinner by KAP EDC, Kinetics Asia Pacific, and I will catch all of you in my next slice. Bye.